management, or sponsors.
Are you a family caregiver? Are you caregiving for someone who can no longer take care of themselves? Are you overwhelmed? This is Caregiver Solutions Info with Marcia Teele. Marcia will be hosting an hour of true stories and information, tips and updates of the latest research and necessary information in the caregiving field, focusing on you, the family caregiver. An Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert, Marcia has 15 years of hands-on experience at Arden, Quartz, a leader in assisted living dementia communities here in the U.S. Marcia covers everything you need to know as a family caregiver, especially if you care for a loved one with Alzheimer's disease or other related dementia or chronic illness. If you have a friend or relative that is also a family caregiver, call them now. They won't want to miss a minute. And let them know they can watch on caregiversolutions.info. And they can listen on WNN 1470 AM in South Florida or nationally on the iHeartRadio app. Now, sit back, relax, and learn from our host, Marcia Teele, as she brings information to you that may just be the caregiving solution you need.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Caregiver Solution Info Show. I'm so happy that you're here with us today. We have another wonderful program for you. This show, it was for you, the family caregiver. So if you're a caregiver or know a caregiver, this show is for you to learn about things that caregivers need to know about to possibly help you have an easier time of caregiving for someone who can't care for themselves. We have experts in the field of different topics. We have elder law attorneys, social workers, geriatric care managers, psychiatrists, social workers that talk specifically to the caregivers, and sometimes even real-life caregivers. So the only way to learn is by reaching out. You go to support groups, go to seminars, but if you can't do that, you can learn right here on your phone, on the iHeart app, on your computer, and listen whenever you can, because it's important for caregivers to learn, and that's what we're here for. And so today I'm very excited. We're going to be talking all about caregiving, and my host is really special because she's been in the caregiving field for a very long time, and you're going to love her. And I'm going to introduce her to you right now. Her name is Linda Burhans. And hi, Linda. Nice to see you. Welcome.
I'm so nice to be here and be here live. It's fabulous.
Well, thank you. Thank you for driving all the way from Tampa to Boca Raton to be here in the studio with me today. It's all good. You've been on before. I love you, love what you have to say, love what you're doing. Linda is actually got a title that I love too. She's called The Gal Who Cares for the Caregiver with Love, Laughter, and Lessons Learned.
Yeah, because I got a whole bunch of that stuff. A whole bunch of love, laughter, and lessons learned.
And that's great because it's inclusive of caregivers with what they need to know, what they need to hear. And you actually have a radio show out of Tampa, right?
Yes.
And it's called Connecting Caregivers. Okay. So I'm so happy that you're here in this part of Florida talking to caregivers.
Yeah.
Your Connecting Caregiver radio show there. You also do support group. You facilitate support groups. And you have written a book. So we're going to talk all about that today. There's so much to talk about. And the thing I want to ask you first is you are a caregiver for other people, but you started out really not knowing what caregiving was about. So how did you get into this field of caregiving?
Well, I didn't have a clue about caregiving. My mom, I moved to Florida in 2000 from Long Island, if you can't tell.
Just a little bit.
And I would go back to visit my mother every couple of months, and I would find out she was becoming more and more isolated. She was just using like one room in the house. She wasn't going to all her church meetings. You could write your name in the dust on the furniture. There wasn't a lot of good food. And so my two sisters and my brother tried to convince my mom to move near one of us or with one of us. And you know the deal. I've been in this house for 48 years. My church is 1 mile down the block. I'm not going anywhere.
Not going anywhere.
Well, in January of 2006, my mother found out she needed a $9,000 chimney repair.
Ooh.
My mother didn't have $9,000. All her money was in that house. She could barely afford the taxes and the fuel and everything on her Social Security. So she called me up and she goes, "I surrender. Come find me somewhere to live." So I flew into New York, We thought we found a fabulous place, went back to the house, my sisters and I talking to my mom, and all of a sudden she stood up and she said, I'm not moving there, I'm moving to Florida. Yes.
So you became a caregiver.
Yes, and I'm the oldest. So she moved down here in June of '06 into Freedom Square and independent living right by me in Seminole. And in October, she was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer.
Oh, no.
Not the deal. So the doctor suggested we do some chemotherapy. And my one sister's a nurse, and she didn't think my mom was good for my mom. My other sister, her husband died young of cancer, so she had been through it. But my mom wanted to try it. It's her body.
Right.
Well, I didn't know until after my mother died that she also had dementia.
You didn't know until afterwards?
Until afterwards.
Well, did you not see any signs of dementia while
when
you were
you're being chemoed up and everything else, and my mom was just like a little kind of a goofy kind of person. But what happened was we did 2 rounds of chemo, and we thought it was killing her. So we decided to stop the chemo. Well, the dementia served her very well because she told everybody she was cured. Now, I don't know if she thought she was cured. She wanted to be cured. She wanted everybody to think she was. But you know what you put in your head. So we had a fabulous 18 months where we traveled. She made up with people she needed to make up with. And it was just absolutely fabulous. And then she became really sick, and I moved in with her. And I tucked her into bed one night, and she said to me, "Good night and God bless," which she said 1,000 times before. I thought it was going to be the last time. I prayed, "Dear God, just give me some time." And the next morning, she woke up, and she looked good. So I started writing my book, Good Night and God Bless, and I wrote through the last 3 weeks of her life and my grieving process. And then I reconstructed our adventure from my journals and my calendar.
So I have a copy of your book
Yes.
here. It's called Good Night and God Bless by Linda Burhans, and it says Celebrating Love, Laughter, and the Lessons of Loss. And so you wrote this really about your mom, about your caregiving.
Well, it was actually my healing process because my mother died December 14th, and I finished my book on Mother's Day. So that's
Aw.
5 months to do the whole, deal. And the last line of my book is, "Happy Mother's Day, Mama. I hope I always make you proud of me." And she loves it because I talk about her all the time.
And why did you feel that you needed to write a book about caregiving?
Because when I was taking care of my mother, I had no idea what I was doing. I ran around this little tornado going, I can do it, because I'm pretty resourceful. I could do it. But I didn't find out what respite care was until I was in my bereavement group. I can remember one time, I would go pick my mom up in the morning, like every morning, like at 7 o'clock in the morning. And she started telling me, somebody's coming in her apartment and messing up her papers. You know that sacred stack of papers they have next to their phone? Now, my mother lived in independent living. I know nobody was going in there. And I don't know if she has dementia because I don't know what that is. But by the 3rd day, she was so agitated, I said, "Let me go upstairs with your mom."
So you kind of believed that somebody was messing around?
No, I just thought my mom was getting a little cuckoo.
Oh, okay.
So I went up and I said to my mom, I got to go down the hall for a minute. And I went down the end of the hall, and I just stood there for a little while. And I came back, and I said, "I just met that girl out in the hallway, and I told her if you ever mess with my mother's papers again, you're going to have to answer to me." And she said, "Thank you, Linda." And that's what I teach people to do now, but I didn't know. I just loved my mother, and I didn't want her to be agitated.
So you just, on the spot, just figured out this is what I'm going to do?
Yeah.
And no one ever told you how
No.
to do that or
No.
why you should do it?
No, she told me there were squirrels under her bed. I knew there weren't any squirrels. I used to hit under there with the broom. "They're gone, Mom." She'd be like, "Okay." So I was like, "Okay." But anyway, so then the book gets published, and I go out to promote the book, and every time people come up to me crying and say they needed help. And like I said, I needed help, but nobody helped me. They think you're a businesswoman, you don't know anything about caregiving. Didn't know anything. So since then, I've facilitated over 2,000 support groups and workshops and speaking engagements, and
So from the book, now
everything changed.
everything changed, and now you're helping thousands of caregivers
Yeah.
because they need to know what you didn't know.
Right.
And I've always said that. I said there's not really college for caregivers,
No.
and you don't learn it unless you grew up in a home that maybe you had a grandparents or
Right.
great grandparents, and people are all.
But we're living
distance.
so much longer than we did before.
That's right.
Right now, a caregiver will come to a support group and they have an issue that mom has to stop driving. Well, nobody ever had to ask a mom before to stop driving because our moms didn't drive.
That's true.
Mostly just our dads drove. And Dad died at 65. So we never had to do that. This is the first generation that has to do those different things. And there's so much to learn about. You know, it kills me. Somebody comes into a support group and we say, oh, I took mom to the doctor. And the doctor said, she has some dementia. Here's some pills and come back in 6 months. What?
And they're lost because...
Right, and they don't even know there's more than one.
And what does that mean?
Right.
What does that mean, mom has dementia? I
Right.
mean, what kind? And
Right.
what do I do about it?
Right. How do I
And
treat it? And
how do I handle this?
right. What are the behaviors like?
Nobody teaches them.
No. And that's what I want to do. You know, when I see somebody come into a support group, I remember one time this woman came in and she just wept the entire time she was there. She hardly said anything. And then all of a sudden at the end she blurts out and she goes, my husband thinks I'm cheating on him. We've been married for 60 years. I would never do that. And the other ladies in the group go, my husband went through that too.
Aw.
It's just a stage, honey. And you just saw her go, because she wouldn't tell her neighbors that, or maybe her sister or her church or anywhere. She could come here and then find out it was okay.
It was okay.
It was
because
okay.
She wasn't alone.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
they get to be friends sometimes. Like I have 2 caregivers that both take care of their moms, and their moms are about the same diagnosis. So what they do now is, because we become friends.
Right.
Is on Tuesday, the one woman takes both of the moms for 4 hours. On Thursday, the other woman takes both of the moms for 4 hours. And on Friday, the 4 of them get together and go to the movies and out to lunch.
That's kind of like what I did when my kids were toddlers, right? So here, you watch my toddler, I can go shopping, and then you switch. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
wonderful idea.
And you know what? It's fabulous for your loved one, because I have to say to you caregivers out there, as much as you think you're the bomb caregiver, and only I can do it the way I do it, many times your loved one is sitting there, and under their breath they're saying, could you please go away for a little while? Come back a little happier. and another thing what we do is, so when my mom passed away, I was in the supermarket one day, and a woman said to me, how you doing, Linda? And I said, I'm okay. The dumb response, I'm okay. And she said, you know, I'm sick of hearing that from you. And she said, I have to tell you, when you took care of your mother, you stole my joy. And I said, I what? And she said, I could see you swimming in quicksand.
Aw.
And every time I asked to help you, you said, no, I'm okay. And you know what, Linda? You didn't give me the opportunity to meet your mom.
Oh, that hurt you. Did that hurt you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So caregivers, think about that. You know, maybe your mom would love to spend some time with somebody else. Maybe some of your friends would love to get to meet your mom.
Yeah.
I had one caregiver that says, I've been listening to your show for a long time, Linda, but I'm a slow learner. And she said, my husband's dementia is really bad, and I can't go to church anymore, and I really want to go to church, and my neighbor's Jewish. She says, so I finally got up the nerve, and I said to him, do you think you could hang out with my husband when I go to church on Sunday? He said, I would love to do that.
See, people don't know that others would love to help them.
And she said the first week I ran to church, and I ran home so fast. And they go, get out of here.
Yeah.
We're playing dominoes.
We're having fun. Leave us alone.
Yeah, so now she gets like 4 hours every Sunday morning.
That's awesome.
And it's the husband so enjoys seeing the neighbor. The neighbor,
Yeah, that's the way it works, and
it takes a village.
It does. It takes a village.
Yeah.
Well, this is exciting. We're going to go to a quick commercial break, but when we come back, we're going to hear lots more and great stories and examples from Linda. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Arden Quartz is not just a place to live, it's a place to call home. Residential living combined with quality caregiving. This is the philosophy behind Arden Quartz. Communities created exclusively for individuals with Alzheimer's disease and related dementia who would benefit from a safe and structured environment. For additional information about any of the unique services Arden Quartz provides, call 888-478-2410 to locate a community nearest you. Inquire about our educational seminars, resource library, or support groups, or simply feel free to ask questions you may have about Alzheimer's and related dementias. At Arden Quartz, we know, we understand, and we can help because memory care is all we do. Remember, call 888-478-2410 for additional information about any of the unique services Arden Quartz provides. You are listening to your host, Marcia Teele, an Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert on CaregiverSolutions.info. If you have a question or wish to share a story, call into the show at 565-1470 and talk with Marcia. Now, back to Caregiver Solutions.
Welcome back to Caregiver Solution Info Show. My special guest today is Linda Burhans. She is from Tampa, Florida. She is the gal who cares for the caregiver with love, laughter, and lessons learned. And she has written a book. It's called Good Night and God Bless, written about her mom that she was a caregiver for. Thank you, Linda, for being here. This is exciting to have you in the studio with me today. So we're talking about what caregivers don't know, and that was one reason you wrote the book, because you didn't know anything about it when you became a caregiver for your mom. So you also actually facilitate several support groups. So you've been doing this how many years?
Oh, 15 years
15 years. So lots and lots of people have benefited from listening to you, reading your book, being in the support groups. So that being said, what would you say would be the most common question that caregivers would pose to you when they first come into a support group?
So this is the comment all the time. My life wasn't supposed to be this way. And what happened to my family and friends? Because many times we don't even know what we're doing. Never mind, our family and friends are going to understand what we're doing and what we're going through or anything like that. And it becomes very isolated. So we have to kind of like teach people how to help us. You know, many times people will say, oh, you know, nobody comes visits my mom anymore because they feel really uncomfortable because they like don't know what to talk to her about or whatever. So I tell them, if your mom lived in Brooklyn, go online and print out some pictures of Brooklyn. If she was a Girl Scout leader, print out some Girl Scout stuff. If you're really smart, on the back of the paper, write her troop number was 1116. And then you can just come when you visit. You pick out one of the papers.
Just a topic to talk about that she
can talk about.
And she's familiar with.
Yes.
And because people that have memory loss, many times they retain that long-term memory.
Right.
She's going to go back in her memory bank and she's like, oh, and she's going to make her so happy because she can participate in that conversation.
And listeners know, when you go back in 2 more days, you may get the same story again, but that's okay. That's just fine. Because, you know, Rosalind Carter said years ago, you either are a caregiver, you have been a caregiver, you will be a caregiver. Someone's going to be taking care of you. I tell everybody it's an equal opportunity employer. We're all going to get a chance at it, and it depends on how you handle it.
That's right. That's right. There's so many kinds of caregivers, too.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no one type of caregiver, and there's no one type of patient. And so it's a very big subject. And so,
well, and then there are people with disabilities. And, you know, years ago, for 8 years, I had custody of my grandchildren. So I used to do a support group called PASTA, Parenting a Second Time Around.
I love that.
For grandparents
PASTA.
taking care of their grandchildren.
Oh, my goodness.
So, yeah, there's all sorts of caregiving we all need to learn. You know, when I went through that experience, I didn't know what an Xbox was. You know, it's like I had to learn stuff.
Well, it's good to learn, not necessarily sometimes the way we have to, but it's good to learn, and that's why you're here.
Yeah.
So when someone says to you, my life wasn't supposed to be like this, right? I mean, they're coming to you, they're opening up their heart, they're telling you what they think and how they feel. What kind of response can you or the other caregivers give to them?
I say, honey, you just got to find a new road. You got to find a new road. You got to find a road with resources. You got to find a team, people that are going to be with you, because the more education you have, the more you understand. When you know better, you do better.
That's true.
And there's, you know, when people come into me and they say, oh, Mom keeps asking me about Dad. I told her Dad died 10 years ago. And she asked me again the next day. And she asked me, and I said, and every time you tell her he died 10 years ago. And I go, what does she do? She cries.
Yeah.
I said, tell him Dad's at work.
Yeah.
Oh, you want me to lie to my mother? No, I want you to be compassionate with your mother. And these are the kind of things you learn in support groups. You know, a woman came into a support group one time. It's very funny. She walked in and she goes, my doctor said I need a support group. I said, oh, welcome.
Yeah, you're in the right place.
Yeah, and everybody was just so welcoming to her. And she goes, so what do you do here? So I said, we share resources and we're a shoulder for each other and different tips. And she goes, all right, give me a tip. I go, what? She goes, give me a tip. I go, I'm going to give you a tip. I don't know if it's appropriate for you, but this is my tip. If your husband has to go to the doctor on Friday, don't tell him on Monday. because he's going to be asking you Monday, Tuesday. She goes, oh my goodness. He was up the other night at 3:30 in the morning, all ready and waiting to go to the doctor. She saw at the table. She said, I think I'm going to like this group. I said, yeah, you will.
Well,
But
see,
if you didn't know that little tip.
yeah, and you don't know what you don't know,
Right.
right? And
Right.
so when people are in a support group now, I know you used to meet in person and before COVID, and now it's more virtual.
Yeah.
But people are still connecting, and
Yes.
that's the name of your radio
Yes.
is Connecting
Connecting
Caregivers.
Caregivers.
And so they're connecting with each other, which is awesome. I mean, you having the experience of being a caregiver yourself, but the caregivers are sharing, and there's no better way to learn than from another caregiver
Right.
who have walked that path, have walked in your shoes, and nobody
Right.
knows until they walked in your shoes.
And they all support each other so well. I mean, when we first were going to go to virtual, I didn't think I was going to like it. I need to hug people. I need to look in their eyes. But now I have caregivers from all over the United States and Canada that didn't have a support group near them. Now I have caregivers that didn't have someone to take care of their loved one while they came to a support group. So it's really been a fabulous thing. And they build friendships together. You know, even after lots of times their loved one passes, they still come back because they want to share and they want to help the next people that are coming in.
Yeah.
Because they know what it was like when it was just them. Mm-hmm. And they didn't know. And they know when they learned that one thing how great it was, or that other little one thing.
And sometimes it's just one little simple tip like that that's going to make a world of difference, right? I mean, little tips. And caregivers, they're hungry for this
Yep.
type of information.
Well, if you go on my YouTube channel, Connecting Caregivers, or my Facebook, I give a Tuesday tip every Tuesday. And it's anywhere from 2 minutes to 4 minutes, depending. Because I know they can grab it. They can grab something in a few minutes. I know many times caregivers don't have time to sit down and listen to a whole show.
Right.
It's great now that everything's recorded and they can listen to it whenever they want to. But they can get, and I can't tell you how many views I get and how many caregivers say, oh, I just needed that like little thing, Linda.
There's one little thing that I can do.
Yeah.
Today's Tuesday, so can you give us another tip?
So-
I'll put you on the spot because I know you gave us the one about don't tell your husband before you have to go somewhere, but I know you have so many tips, and today's Tuesday,
Well, my tip today I would say is to find purpose for your loved one. Find a purpose for your loved one.
okay. Now, why would that be important?
Okay, because first of all, everybody wants a purpose. Everybody wants to feel needed. Everybody, whether you have dementia, cancer, whatever it is, everybody wants to feel good. Everybody wants to do something. So I'll give you an example. This one woman said to me, Linda, my mom follows me around the house 24/7. She just follows me around everywhere. And I'll say one thing about following around, and then I'll continue with this. Many times she's following you around because your mom knows she's failing, and she doesn't know when this is going to be the last time she's going to see you. So she wants to keep you in her vision all the time, and she wants to know that you're there all the time. So when you think about that, it's a whole different twist of what goes on. So she says, if my mom could just sit down for 2 hours a day, Linda, it would make me so happy. I said, can I come meet your mom? So I go and I meet her mom. Her mom was a teacher. So first we complain about all the rotten kids, and then we complain about how teachers don't get paid enough. And what we do now, every Monday morning, we give Mom a big piece of poster board, and we tell her that the teachers are teaching the kids next week about flowers, so we need you to cut out all the flowers from these magazines and glue it on the poster board, and you can't have any white spaces. And it takes her 2 hours a day to do over 5 days.
And she's happy to
And
do
she's
it
happy.
because she was a teacher and
Yeah.
she's used to doing that.
Because we want to, we want to find something to occupy them that they're familiar with, that they like. Now, somebody else wants nothing else to do with that. I have another woman who was a banker. She rolls coins all day long. Rolls coins. Her daughter dumps them out every night. She rolls them the next day.
Same ones.
I had a woman who was
Got to get creative,
yes,
right?
was a seamstress. So we give her a big jar filled with buttons and a bunch of containers for her to sort them. So sometimes she sorts them by colors and sometimes by shape or whatever. And every now and then she picks up that one button and says, just like on the dress I made you in 2nd grade.
Aww.
And then they have a conversation.
It
Yeah.
stimulated a memory.
Yeah.
And you never know when those little bits and pieces are going to come out from their memory, and then it's going to be special.
Yeah.
It's a gift.
And it doesn't even have to be for even someone that's declined a lot. So my mom would say to me, Linda, is there anything I can do to help you? And I'd be, Mom, there's some laundry in the basket there. I don't want to do that. Linda, is there anything I can do to help you? Mom, there's a couple of dishes in the sink if you want. I don't want to do that. But my mother was a legal secretary, and that was a big deal to her. So I went to Staples, and I bought 500 envelopes, and I printed out 500 phony letters and 500 phony labels. And I was like, Mama, if you could just stuff these for me and put these, it would help me so much with my business. And it took her like a week watching Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy. But she was so proud when she handed that to me. That was the best $20 I ever spent.
There you go.
And then after that, I got her a part-time gig at the Chamber of Commerce helping with their newsletter.
Did you really?
Yeah.
So she could fold newsletters?
Yeah.
That was genius.
I mean, I didn't even realize she couldn't even read at that point. I just
But
thought
she knew how to fold.
Yeah, she knew how to fold really good.
And she was happy, and they were happy for the volunteer.
Yeah.
And everybody wins.
Yeah.
Everybody wins.
So there's many different. I could tell you story after story.
We're gonna do that because
Okay.
we're gonna go to a commercial break.
All right.
We're gonna give away a book. You don't want to miss that because get your pen, paper ready to get a free book as soon as we come back from break, and then we'll have more tips and stories from Linda Burhans. We'll be right back.
Somewhere at the corner of bewildered and confused is a lost mother, a father, a sibling, a grandparent. Wandering is a common symptom of Alzheimer's or related dementias and can often make those who care for a loved one feel just as lost. If you're looking for a place that's safe and secure, look to Arden Quartz. Memory care is all we do. We know, we understand, we can help. To learn more, visit arden-quartz.com. Arden Quartz follows equal housing opportunity guidelines.
You are listening to your host, Marcia Teele, an Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert on CareGiverSolutions.info. If you have a question or wish to share a story, call into the show at 888-565-1470 and talk with Marcia. Now, back to Caregiver Solutions.
I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our national sponsor, Arden Quartz Memory Care. Arden Quartz is a leader in memory care. They have about 50 memory care assisted livings throughout the United States, 10 of them here in the state of Florida. And Arden Quartz is a wonderful resource for you as a caregiver. They offer a lot of information. And today, because you're listening to this show or watching it, this is for you. This is called the 36-Hour Day. It's a wonderful resource, wonderful book written by Dr. Peter Rabins and Nancy Mace, and it's actually in its 5th edition. This has become the Caregiver's Bible, so to speak, because it's full of information, tips, definitions, letting you know what you need to know as a caregiver if you're caring for someone with some form of dementia, Alzheimer's, vascular dementia, doesn't matter what kind, you're a caregiver, this is the book for you. You can actually get this book free just for the asking because you're watching this show. All you have to do is send an email to Delray at arden-quartz.com. That's DELRAY at Arden, ARDEN Quartz, COURTS.com, and give your name, address, and telephone number. Tell them that you heard about the 36-Hour Day book on the Caregiver Solution Info Show, and they'll be happy to mail one right to your door. So if you don't have this book, I highly recommend it. It's a wonderful resource. You will learn a lot. So send an email today and get your 36-Hour Day book for free. So my guest today is Linda Burhans. She is a radio host from Tampa, Florida, and she's here with me live in the studio in Boca Raton. I'm so excited you drove down today to be on the show. And your radio show is connecting caregivers. You also facilitate support groups. You've written a book. You kind of do it all. You've been doing it for a long, long time. So we are talking about helping caregivers and helping caregivers help their loved one find a purpose. And it's important because everybody needs to be needed.
Everybody wants a purpose.
Everybody needs a purpose, right? And we as caregivers, we can't always think of things for our loved one to do. We can't be there 24/7. We can't be with them 24/7 because it's too much for one person.
It's too much, but you know what I find out with caregivers? Excuse me. They come and they say, Mom's just sitting in the chair. Well, you took everything away from Mom. Now, when I cut the fruit salad, I can probably cut the fruit salad in 10 minutes. If Mom cuts the fruit salad, it's probably going to take a half hour. Who am I serving? who am I serving? So if I take everything from Mom, Mom's going to stop doing everything.
Right.
Somebody says Mom puts the I couldn't believe it. Mom put the paper plates in the dishwasher. And then she took the dirty fork and she put it in the drawer. Oh, and then she took my half of avocado out of the refrigerator and mashed it up.
She did?
Yes. I can't believe it.
Wow.
I can't believe
Wonder
it.
why she...
And she aggravates me so much.
I know, Linda. It must aggravate you because that's really crazy stuff
Is
that
that
your
crazy
mom
stuff?
does. Of be putting paper.
But you know what I
dishes
realized?
in the dishwasher.
You know what I realized
What did
that
you
night when I
realize?
tucked her into
No,
bed?
what did you realize?
She was just trying to help me.
Yeah. That's right.
And I need to let her try to help me. Because what difference does it really make
That's right.
if I have to take the paper plate out of the thing? I could get myself all aggravated about it, or we can just go with the flow.
That's right.
Just go with the flow. You know, when we were talking about earlier about people coming to visit, and people say, you know, people get really uncomfortable because Mom can't remember their name anymore. And lots of times with grandchildren, can't remember the name anymore. Well, one day there was this guy that used to come into my support group for a long time, and his wife lived in the community. And he went to visit her one day, and she said, I don't know you, you old man, get away from me. He said, I left that day. He said, I came back the next day and the next day, and it happened like 4 days in a row. And the people at the community said, maybe you shouldn't come back for a while. He said, Linda, I'm married to her for 64 years. They tell me I shouldn't come back for a while. He goes, I was laying in bed at night trying to figure out a solution. I just could hear your voice in my head. So the guy got a full head of white hair. So the next morning he went to the salon, had it dyed black, cut it into a crew cut like he wore in the day, bought himself a pair of blue jeans, a T-shirt, rolled up a pack of Camels in his sleeve, and she's in love with him.
Oh.
She's in love with him. And what a risk he took. It might not have worked. So I told this story on the radio show. I tell it every now and then because I just think it's such a fabulous story. And this one girl said, oh, my God. She goes, whenever I go visit my grandma, she doesn't know who I am either. But when I was a kid, I used to wear long black braids. So now she got a wig with long black braids, and she's from Wisconsin and always wore flannel shirts. So when she visits her grandma in Florida, she wears the black braids and the flannel shirt. And as soon as she walks in, Grandma's like, baby, you're here. So we got to be creative.
We have to be creative, and that's a great story.
Yeah. I mean, how simple we can do that. We can do those different things. And this is what I see in caregivers every day, how strong their love is, so many of them, to figure out a way, you know, to give their loved ones the best quality of life that they have. You know, and then I have caregivers that say, I don't want to take care of my mom. My mom was never really nice to me. Well, I can hope you can forgive, but if you can't forgive, then you find someone else that can take care of your mom. You don't have to do it.
Yeah, it's true.
You don't have to do it. And
Yeah.
I can understand in some circumstances that's the way it is.
And I had a daughter one time that didn't like her mom at all, like you said, was really mean to her. But when her mom got Alzheimer's, the mom
Every now and
turned
then. That
around
doesn't happen often.
and became very sweet and kind.
Yeah.
And that was the first time that this daughter said her mother said, I love you to her.
Aw.
Because the mother never said it when they were growing up. She was mean, she was controlling, she
Yeah.
was manipulative. And when she got Alzheimer's, her personality changed and she became sweet and loving and caring. And the daughter said, you know, it's not a good thing to probably say, but I'm glad my mom got Alzheimer's because I had the opportunity to hear my mom tell me from her own lips, I love you.
Well, there was a woman that told me in a support group one time Alzheimer's saved her marriage. I'm like, excuse me? She goes, yes. My husband was always, go, 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 go. Even on vacation. Every minute. She goes, now he's like, hey, babe, what do you want to do?
He's laid
She
back.
said, saved my marriage. So you don't know.
You don't know.
You don't
And
know.
that's why we have to, like you said, go with the flow because, you know, like a river, it twists and turns. And if you have to be able to be flexible and
Yep.
twist and turn and go with that flow because you can't be rigid as a caregiver and you always have to have a backup plan.
Yes.
And if one thing doesn't work, go to plan B. If that doesn't work, go to plan C and keep on going until you find what works. And that's what's important is find what works for you because what might work for you might not work for this other person.
Exactly. And what works today might not work tomorrow.
That's true too.
So I always say, if it's good for today, it's good for today. Just go with that. And get creative. And go to support groups. And talk to other people and find out their great ideas. I learn stuff in support groups every day. I'm still learning new stuff every day.
Well, we have to get in their world, and that's something that
Yeah.
caregivers kind of aren't familiar with, because if someone has memory loss, it's not them, it's the disease, right?
Right.
It's not them being difficult. It's
No,
not.
she's tricking me, my mother.
No, that's
I
what they
hear
think.
that all the time.
Yeah, they think, or she's just being difficult.
Yeah.
Or, what is she
Trying to make me crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so we have to get in their world and, explain what that means, because people don't understand. What does that mean, getting in their world?
We have, just like you would get into a world of a child, okay? You have to face them where they're at. And if they seem to be a little backwards, it's okay to be a little backwards. Sometimes caregivers are just too proud. Just get into the world with them. Just think about what they're thinking about. If they're talking to you about something, even if it doesn't make any sense, just go with it. What does it matter? What does it matter?
And that reminds me of something that I witnessed. There was a man who had dementia, and he talked gibberish, right? And he was talking gibberish, and there was some family members, and they just didn't want to deal with him because they didn't understand. And
Right.
they were sort of ignoring him.
Right.
And they were all visiting, and he was trying to talk, and they were just totally ignoring him. And the more they ignored him, the angrier he got, because he wanted to be heard, right? And so I came along, and I kind of interjected myself
Corralled him around,
into the conversation, and let him talk, all right? And nodded my head and said I understood, and really, and tell me more. And the family, they were watching because they saw the change in the man's
Yes.
demeanor, and they saw that he wanted to share something, even though they didn't know what it was. In his mind, he knew what he was trying to say. It just wasn't coming out right, but he felt heard. And so they learned a lesson. Just listen, even if it doesn't make sense, even if, you can't understand anything, even if they're talking, gibberish, they want to be heard.
I had a friend that used to go into memory communities and do engagement with memory people, and I would go there with her every now and then. And there was one woman that every week they would bring her in her chair, and she didn't open her eyes, and she barely talked. But they always brought her.
Yes.
They always brought her. And people would be doing their other things with the parachutes, whatever, playing with stuff, but she would always just sit in the chair. Well, after a while, the girls found out that she loved horses. So every week when they would go, they would bring her another horse, whether it was a stuffed animal horse or a statue horse or whatever. And then one day, somebody was having a conversation. They said something about the horses, and she just raised her horse.
Aww.
And opened her eyes. So
And
she was
opened her
in
eyes.
the conversation. But it took work to do that.
Yeah.
It took time to do that.
Yeah. And
And she became more engaged after that.
And that's something sometimes caregivers lose, is their patience. And that's hard for them to try to be patient and try to be understanding. And that's why they need the education, go to support groups, learn the tips.
And they're running.
Yeah.
Many times I just say to a caregiver, well, my mother's not listening to me or whatever. I go, how do you talk to your mother? Do you talk to your mother when you're running around the kitchen? Your mother probably can only hear like every third word you're saying. I said, take some time to sit down and look at your mother in the eyes and talk to her. And I promise it will get better. Oh my God. It does.
It did.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you do something too. It's called Journaling for Caregivers.
Yes.
What is that?
So it's sponsored by Arden, Quartz, actually. I started in January. We did a 3-week journaling course for caregivers. Now, lots of caregivers will say, I don't want to go to any support groups because, I don't know, I might...
It's not my thing,
Yeah, whatever.
or I don't
know.
want
I
to.
don't need a psychiatrist, whatever. The good thing about a journaling workshop is I'll give a prompt, a writing prompt, and let's say the writing prompt is, I remember when. And all of a sudden someone says, I remember when my husband could still have a conversation with me. And then someone else goes, yeah, I remember when my husband could still have a conversation with me too. So it's like a journaling workshop and a support group together.
So they're writing this down.
Yes, they're writing it down, and they can share if they want to share. And it's kind of interesting, because a couple of weeks ago I said, I wanted them to write a note to someone that made a difference in their life.
Oh, that's nice.
And I'm watching, because it's on Zoom, and everybody's shutting down, because I know they're crying, because it's emotional for them. And they're shutting down, and they're shutting down. And then a few minutes later, they'll come back up. And then one shared, and I got goosebumps just saying it. And then another one shared, but it was great because just sharing those journaling prompts, and they start writing down something, it's easy for them that maybe if they were just in a support group, they wouldn't know how to speak, or they wouldn't know what to say, or they wouldn't feel as comfortable.
And so you're giving them the idea and to write it down, say
Yeah.
it, and it's making them feel,
Yeah.
but instead of having to share it like
Yeah.
normally, they can write it,
Yeah.
and at least they're communicating their thoughts and their feelings, which is important for them to even themselves to acknowledge what they're feeling.
Well, this past week, the first journaling prompt I gave, I said, I want each one of you to write down 5 to 10 things that make you happy.
That's good for everybody to do.
It is fabulous for everybody. And people started writing down stuff and then sharing stories and sharing other stuff. If a caregiver at the end of the night can just sit down and write maybe 3 things that they're grateful for, or 3 things that they made through the day, this was better or this worked, it takes a lot off of you, and just gratitude, I think, makes you always feel better. My granddaughter years ago used to have a gratitude journal. So on the left-hand side of the page, she would write 3 things that she's grateful for, and on the right-hand side, she'd write 3 things that she's grateful for in advance.
In advance.
So always setting yourself up for. So I tell my caregivers go, I am so grateful that the visit to the doctor was excellent this week. And they go, you know what? It kind of works, Linda. Kind of something, because you're kind of like putting it out there kind of thing. Doesn't always. But I think just that whole positive vibe.
Right, it's being positive.
Helps.
It definitely helps.
Yeah.
It's what you're hoping for, what you want to happen. Be grateful. When people now say to you, "Hi, Linda, how are you?" What do you say?
I'm joyful and grateful.
You're joyful and
Because
grateful.
I was going through a tough time years ago, and people would say, how you doing, Linda? And I said I was hanging in there. And then one day I thought, hanging? It's not good. Not good. So I always say I'm joyful and grateful, and sometimes they look at me with a little cocked head, and I say, some days I'm joyfully challenged, but I'm always grateful.
And that's so important. I mean, caregivers have a rough way to go, but if they can find something, a little.
And words are important. The words you use are very important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and no, don't be negative. I can't, or I won't, or
I say to the caregivers, if you walk around all day long saying you're tired, guess what?
you're gonna be
You're
tired.
tired. But if you're walking around all day saying, I'm doing this good. I'm doing a pretty damn good job.
Yeah, and I did that, and pat yourself on the back.
Yes.
Because you know what? I accomplished something today.
Yes.
And you might not accomplish everything on your
No.
list, but if you can accomplish something, right? Be happy you accomplished, and check that off your list. And maybe, every day's a new day, and it doesn't all have to be done the same day.
And you might let someone help you.
Yeah, and it
You
doesn't
might actually let
And
someone
the
help
other
you.
thing that we need to talk about, it doesn't have to be perfect.
Nothing needs to be perfect.
But caregivers,
Oh,
they try to be perfect. They
Yeah.
want to do everything right. And if it's not right, they don't think it's not good, and they think it's
Right.
not good enough. And what would my brother think if I let my mom dress like that and wear polka dots and stripes because she was always such a wonderful dresser? But is it wrong if mom is home and she's happy and she likes polka dots and she likes stripes and she wants to wear that today in the home?
cares?
Who cares? Does it really make a difference?
no, it doesn't make a difference.
No.
But we get so tied up with what it should be and how it should be.
And if mom says, looking out the window, the sky is orange. Well, it might be, but if she said the sky is green, are you going to correct her? No, you're going to say, what a beautiful shade of green that is.
Yes.
Right? Because you don't want to argue with them. And if you try to correct them, it's just going to create
And
problems.
they get angry.
And they get angry.
Do I want to be corrected, especially by my daughter? Really.
And so that's part of getting in their world, right?
Yes.
Is getting in their world and seeing things through their eyes and agreeing with them and giving them choices. Talk about choices. That's so important.
So many times it's so I don't like what mom's wearing, or she's in the closet for like a half hour. She can't. Don't make it difficult for her. Take out 2 outfits. Mom, you could wear this outfit or that
this
outfit.
one. Mm-hmm.
And if mom likes those pink jogging pants so much, buy 5 pairs. Let her wear them every single day if she wants, as long as they're clean. Don't worry about it. We get so uptight about this. And we don't, many times, we give them either too many choices or no choice.
Right.
Where we just needed to make it simple. Mom, would you like an apple or an orange? Not Mom, what kind of fruit do you want? That might be too much for her to think about.
Right. Give them the choices, simple
Yeah.
choices.
Yes.
Very
And
important.
then they feel like they have a choice in something.
Yeah.
I don't want to be sitting and people just putting food in front of me, whatever they decide. I like to have a choice about what I eat.
And speaking of choices, talk about menus at a restaurant, because if you hand someone with a restaurant with a menu, they're looking at it, they're overwhelmed.
Yeah.
They can't make a choice. Sometimes they can't even read.
No.
And they don't know what to do, and they're afraid to say something because they might embarrass themselves. So if you take your loved one to a restaurant for lunch or dinner and the waiter hands them a menu and you know your loved one can't handle that, what should a caregiver
Well, first
do?
of all, I'll tell you one thing. Get friendly with your neighborhood restaurants because they'll be very accommodating if they know that your loved one has an issue because they want your business. So there are some restaurants, actually in Seminole, where they have an area and there's purple tablecloths on that area. So there's not a lot of stuff on the table. The music isn't loud there or whatever. You can order ahead of time before you go there, and you can even have them cut the food before it comes to the table. So then when dinner comes to the table, I'm not cutting up Mom's food like she's a baby. It's already cut. So I suggest if anyone's going to a restaurant, think about what you want before you get there. So then when you get there, you already know what you want. You want the burger. Or once again, give them 2 choices. I don't like going to a restaurant where there's 45 choices.
That's right.
Just make it simple for them.
Right.
Tell the server. So on my business card, on the back of my business card, it says, the person I am with has Alzheimer's or dementia, may not fully understand what you're saying. Please
Right.
be patient with them.
Right.
If you have that card and you give that to the server, you know how nice they're going to be? If people want to help, if they know.
Yes.
I had a caregiver who said, Linda, she said, I gave some cards out at the support group, and then she called me and she said, could I have 18 more cards? Yeah, okay. So I leave 18 more cards. Next time she comes to the support group, she goes, those cards saved my life. We're like, what? Well, she lives in a mobile home park. Her husband has dementia. He's starting to go in people's yards. He's not always cleaning up the dog poo. Everybody's giving him dirty looks. So she just went around and gave 1 card to every neighbor. They're like, we'll clean up the poo. He can come in our yard. Maybe he'd like some lemonade.
Oh.
So now she has a whole community
Who's
happy and helping her instead of giving dirty looks.
and supporting her.
Yeah.
Yeah. And speaking of support, we have something coming up soon in
Yes.
November. I want to talk about that. You have a caregiver conference coming up. It's going to be November 2nd, 3rd, and 4th,
Yes.
2021.
Yes.
Talk about that.
Right from the comfort of your living room. So it's all virtual.
Okay.
So there'll be 3 days of speakers. Every day at lunchtime there'll be something different too. There will be one day there'll be yoga, one day there'll be meditation, one day there'll be EFT.
What's
but we have
EFT?
emotional freedom technique, tapping, where you can tap on the points, the acupuncture points in your body, and it actually can bring you down. And
So someone will be teaching that virtually so you
Yes.
can do it at home
Yes.
during the break.
Yes.
And when you're not doing that, you have these classes.
Yeah, so
virtual.
we have Dr. Tam Cummings, who will be talking about dementia, and Kate McCarty. We have an elder care attorney, which will be talking about your legal stuff. We have people talking about mental health and medical marijuana. We have a pharmacist that's going to come on and talk. That's a whole nother story. It's very interesting because you can actually now be genetically tested, and I had it done, and the test will show what medicine you should never have in your whole life. It doesn't work for you.
Or what medications interact that
Right.
you don't want to have together.
Right.
Because one doctor will give you a prescription, another doctor will give you another couple, and no one's monitoring that.
No.
They don't know
Right.
necessarily, and your primary, who would be the gatekeeper of that, sometimes they don't know everything. And so you could be taking medications.
Yeah.
And I had a lady one time that was taking so many medications, and they had interactions. It actually caused her to be confused, and they can
Yeah.
have memory loss.
Yeah.
And when somebody went through and looked at everything and said, well, this is a duplicate,
Yeah.
and you don't need this, and you have too much of that, do you know what? Her mind cleared. And the family thought she had dementia, and her mind cleared
Yeah.
because of the medications.
Yeah.
So it's a very important
Yeah,
topic.
he's a very, so there'll be a lot of little different fun things there, and educational things. And the great part is, if you cannot come on those days, as long as you register, you'll be privy to all of the recordings after it. So the website is connectingcaregiversconference.com. Totally free to caregivers, thanks to my wonderful sponsors, Arden, Quartz, and Palm Garden, and Seasons Hospice, and Assisting Hands, because they all want to help the caregivers. And I think that's just absolutely fabulous.
And so there's room for people to...
Oh, there's plenty of room.
All right.
There's plenty of room. I'm able to take 1,200 participants. So we're up to about 400 now.
That's awesome.
And hopefully we'll be getting a whole bunch more. And please do it. Don't wait till the last minute, okay, guys? I gotta beg even my own family. Please sign up for the conference.
Yeah, well, sometimes people like to procrastinate, but I'm glad
They might have a special date that day.
That's right. That's right. Tell everyone how to register again.
Just go to connectingcaregiversconference.com. All you do is put in your name and your email. Very simple. It don't ask for your shoe size or nothing.
No, and one of the other really good things about this conference, it's free.
Yes, free.
It's totally free.
Totally free. I don't know where you're going to get an opportunity to hear these kind of speakers. I'm very proud of the list of speakers and the people that are coming forward that want to help caregivers.
Yeah. And we've had Dr. Kate McCarty on the show before.
Yeah,
and
Joel Quattlebaum.
Yeah,
He's been talking about senior scams.
Yes,
and all
he's
that
been on
stuff.
our show too. I mean, you have some great people, and I would encourage everybody, if you are looking to be more educated about different topics, you have a really great opportunity here with this conference, and it is virtual. And like Linda said, even if you register and you can't watch it that day, well, it's over 3 different days, but if you can't watch it, you have access to watch it whenever you can.
And what's so great with everything being recorded, because this is what, even like with the radio show, this is what I hear from a caregiver. That topic didn't have anything to do with me 4 weeks ago, Linda, but it does right now. Or my sister needs to hear this, or someone else. So that's the fabulous part about all the technology today with everything being recorded.
Right, because this show goes up on YouTube afterwards, and you can just look on YouTube. Same thing with yours, right? And so
I'm a YouTuber.
Yeah, you're YouTubers. Who would have thought, right? And COVID, yes, it doesn't stop us. We're going to find a way. And I think more people have been helped because of the technology and because of the virtual seminars and conferences and everything.
Well, as things are opening up, I want to be live again. I love being with people. It's like the first speaking engagement I did, we were all masked up and everything, and they were like all spread out all over the room. So it was like halfway through it, and I said, could you do me a favor, you guys? If you're smiling underneath those masks, could you give me a thumbs up? Because they all look like, whatever.
Sometimes they just want to, like, okay, real quick, yes, okay, I'm there. That's who I am, right?
But I think as things open up more and everything, I think we're going to do virtual and live.
That's wonderful.
I think that's how it's going to be.
I'm so glad you're live with me right now.
Me too.
I love talking with you.
Yes,
we always
good.
have so much to talk about, and you're so passionate about everything that you do. And I want to thank you for coming on today and sharing. Her book, Good Night and God Bless, Celebrating Love, Laughter, and the Lessons of Loss by Linda Burhans. Can someone get this on
Amazon?
Amazon, okay.
Yeah.
So go to Amazon, look it up, get her book. It's wonderful. She's
Thank
wonderful. I want to thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Before we go, one other little tip.
One other little tip. Don't be hard on yourself.
There you go.
Don't be hard on yourself, caregivers. None of us really know what we're doing that clearly. And just give yourself a little pat on the back. And when somebody says that they want to help you, say thank you very much.
And say, yes, this is what you can do for me.
One of my caregivers goes, oh, I finally let my neighbor cut the lawn, but I told him he didn't have to do the edging.
If he was going to cut the grass, he probably wouldn't feel like he did a complete job if he didn't get it edged.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's just thank you. They feel bad, when people want to help, but feel grateful and feel blessed.
Yeah, how do you feel when you help somebody? You feel good.
You do.
Let them feel good.
Yeah, don't take that away from them. Well, thank you for being here. Thank you all for watching today. I'm glad that you were here, whether you're on local Southeast Florida radio, the iHeartRadio app, or streaming live on caregiversolutions.info. Don't forget also about getting your free copy of the 36-hour day. Just send an email to delray@arden-quartz.com and request your free copy of the 36-hour day by giving your name, address, and telephone number. We will be back next week, every Tuesday from 6:04 till 7 p.m. with another show, a Caregiver Solution Info show with another great speaker, different topics. So like Linda said, if it doesn't apply to you now, it probably will in the future. So thank you, everybody. Thank you again, Linda.
Thanks.
Come back and see us.
I will.
Everybody have a good night. Be safe, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks for joining us for this week's Caregiver Solutions with Marcia Teele. Join us next week as Marcia, who has 15 years of Alzheimer's disease and dementia care experience, brings you more needed information to help with the care of your loved one. This show can be seen again on caregiversolutions.info, and questions can be left on the site, which may be used on the program to help others. See you next week for more